everybody, it's Jack. Welcome back to the fuzzZone. I am standing behind my Ampeg Echo Twin. This is the amplifier that I used in the secret tip video, if you recall. And I've been receiving a lot of emails from you guys requesting more information about it, so I'm going to try and answer those questions today. This is an Ampeg Echo Twin. It's actually 2 amps in 1. It's a true stereo amplifier, and it's, I believe, one of the first, if not the first, stereo amplifier that Ampeg produced. It first was manufactured in the late 1960. It was I think November or December of 1960 when it actually came out with this. And it was discontinued in 1964. They only made them for about that 3-year period. They were expensive to produce at the time. There were 2 true amplifiers in this amp here. You have 2 output sections, you have 2 fuses, everything is doubled in this amplifier, which came in handy at the time in case the amp blew out, or one side of the amp blew out. You can always switch over and finish your gig out with the other side of the amp. It was in the early 60s, and not the whole heck of a lot was around back then. It's not like it is today. But the amp sounds great. It's a studio workhorse. From what I've heard, it's a favorite of Peter Frampton's. I've read that many times where he has one of these or a couple of these, and he really likes it a lot. And you can see why. The thing just sounds fantastic. There's not, it doesn't really get really growly and gainy until you get to the very, very end of the pot, when you're turning the pot up. You know, when you're around 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 even, it gets crunchy, but it still retains its clarity and its warmth. Basically, Ampeg didn't want amplifiers that distorted, from what I've been told. So they always wanted to make sure they had a lot of clean headroom. But the magic is when you start to get to 9 and 10 and you're really dying the amplifier, that's when it really breaks up very, very well. Retains a lot of its clarity, compresses beautifully. Doesn't seem to matter what guitar you plug into it. Strats and Telecasters that I have here never sound thin through it at all. And, you know, bigger, more robust guitars like Les Pauls and Gibson 335s and whatnot just sound fantastic through it. So I'm going to take you behind the scenes here. I'm going to go in the back. I'm going to show you the back of the amplifier. Okay, I put the amp down on the floor. It's easier to handle a camera. I'm going to handle a camera by hand. So let me just show you what these controls are. First off, the original faceplate. This is a brass one that our tech put on. The original one was, which is underneath here, part of the chassis, was so scraped that you couldn't even read any of the text anymore. And you didn't even know what any of these controls were. But you'll notice we're starting from the left, facing the back of the amplifier. Here's the fuse, here's the light indicating that whether it's on or off, and here's the power switch. Down here I've actually tagged and labeled all of this because I didn't really, you know, I couldn't figure out a way to get this etched so that we could, you know, have the controls designated like they were at one time to know what everything was. So Joe and I just wrote a tag in the back here, and that suffices. Right over here we have the first volume of the first amp, and this is the tone. It just had a volume and tone control. If you remember from the secret tip video, that's one of the secrets. There's no preamp adjustment here, so when you want to open it up, you just open this volume up like this, and you take the tone to taste, depending on whether or not you're playing a Strat or a Tele or a Les Paul or whatever it is. The big thing about Ampeg amplifiers is that they really retain their clarity and their headroom. They don't really break up till the very end, and then they become very touch sensitive, which is what we kind of built into the Fuzz Bubble 45 too, that touch sensitivity that the pedal has. It's kind of mimicking an amplifier like this. This is one of the things that we wanted to do, and this amplifier does it very well. So when you hit a chord real hard, this amp gives it to you and really compresses nice and gives you that big crunch. And when you back off and play very gently, the amp opens up and gets clean, and it responds perfectly to your touch. Okay, next to it are the tremolo knobs. This is the one for the speed. This is the one for the intensity of the tremolo. And over here you'll notice 2 inputs. Back in the day, the accordion was really, really popular back in the 50s and 60s. And like I said, this one was made in the early 60s. So one of these inputs is for a guitar. The other is for an accordion. To tell you the truth, I don't know which is which. But I can tell you one thing. Depending on what guitar you play, the impedance of the pickups and the output of the pickups, you can get great tones from both of these. They're very, very, very versatile. This one, to me, sounds a lot hotter than this one. So the resistor pad in here is probably a lot less than this one is here. And I guess that had to do with whatever the impedance was of an accordion, you know, what the pickup was. I'm not sure what mechanism they used, but whatever it was one went into one and the guitar went into the other. This you have a switch to flip between the two amplifiers, running them in stereo or running them in mono. This is actually a stereo jack. So if you have a stereo guitar, it's really cool because you could do some wacky things, like I said, having the tremolo come out on one side and a reverb coming out of the other. It does some really odd things, but sounds fantastic. And this side mimics the other side. You have your two inputs. One was for an accordion and a guitar. This is the reverb volume. This is the only thing that's different. This is the reverb volume or control. Over here you got the tremolo. Over here you had the reverb. But you can throw the reverb in on both sides. It doesn't matter what side you use. You can have reverb and tremolo with both, just depending on how you flip this switch. And then next to it you have the volume. On this side, the reverse. It's volume and tone. Over here it was tone and volume. So over here it's volume and tone. And here is the fuse for the amplifier as well. So that's the back of it. Let me step back again. They did a really great job covering this, and our tech Vinny did a really good job putting that brass plate on the top. And I'm going to try and see if we can pick this amp up now, if I can take a sneak peek at the speakers without removing the back. Okay, here's a look at the speaker. I don't believe these are original speakers. These are C12Qs, which they say came with the amplifier. Those were the original speakers, but I think these are copperbacks. Here's the other one over here. They have like this copperback sticker, and I'm not so sure Jensen. I don't know when Jensen issued these. They might be from the early 60s. They might be in the mid 60s. I'm not quite sure. But the other Ampeg amplifiers that I have from this era, which are the early to mid 60s, they have a Jensen with a blue. This part here has a blue cone to it, a blue metal cap, and I've heard some Ampeg historians call them bluebacks that they put in the Jensens. I'm not quite sure what they're called, but all my other amplifiers that I know are totally original have those speakers in them. But whatever the case may be, these are true Jensens, and they sound amazing. They're well broken in, and they sound great in this amp, and that's all that matters. Okay, if you guys want to learn more about Ampeg amplifiers, there's a great book that I actually have that you can pick up. I think Amazon has it, and a bunch of other bookstores sell it too. It's called Ampeg, The Story Behind the Sound, and it really gives you an in-depth look at the history of Ampeg amplifiers, like this one, this Echo Twin, and the Rockets, and the Jets, and the Portaflexes, and all the stuff that they made. They made just really top-notch stuff, every bit as good as Fender. In fact, they were made, a lot of the circuits were designed by a fellow named Jess Oliver, and he's in this book. And when you think of Leo Fender, what he was to his company, and what Les Paul was to Gibson, Jess Oliver really was to Ampeg. He's a phenomenal guy, and he's actually worked on a couple of these amps. He lives here on Long Island, and he's a great guy. Getting on up there in years right now, but I'm going to see if I can't do an interview with him for the fuzzZone. Maybe he'll do it with us. But anyway, this is a book, and he's in there. In fact, he signed the book for me. I'm going to come up close, show you the book, show you the cover, and show you the autograph too. But if you want to learn more about Ampeg amplifiers, this is definitely the book to get. Okay, here's a close-up of the book. Ampeg, The Story Behind the Sound. And you open it. That's Jess Oliver there. And there's a little autograph to me. Great guy. That's Jess back in the day, but he invented a lot of the circuits for Ampeg. The Portaflex, and there was a few other ones, famous ones that he actually came up with too. These are great amps, you know, just great amps. So if you guys are interested, you want to pick that book up, go right ahead. It's a great book, and it'll tell you all you need to know about Ampeg amplifiers and a lot of the bands that use them, like the Stones and really great groups like that.